at the national level. Again, to yet another unit. In our last unit, we looked at the policy governing the integration of ICTs in TVET. Today, we're going to look at unit 4.3, which is planning for the integration of ICTs in TVET at the national and institutional level. By way of objective, at the end of this unit, we're going to learn how to develop a plan for the integration of ICTs in TVET at both the national and institutional level. Now we have a guiding question as usual. Now, has your institution developed a plan to integrate ICTs at the national and institutional level? This question is very important because it will guide us throughout the process. Now, looking at the content flow chart, there are planning factors. And these planning factors are leadership, planning at the national and institutional level, and then planning at the institutional level proper. Now, for us to actually plan at the national and institutional level, we need to consider specifically the funding aspect of it. And then planning at the institutional level, we need to consider the instructional design, how to select the media, the learner support system, risk analysis and prevention costs, professional development procedures, and then research and evaluation. However, at the instructional design level, we're going to look at the ADDIE model, and in selecting the media procedures or the media type, we're going to look at sections model. So let's begin. By way of introduction, digital transformation in TVET requires the creation of a training ecosystem wherein all the stakeholders in the international and external organizational ecosystem agrees to collaborate and share resources, information, and services. Now, this chapter examines the important planning factors that need to be extended to at both the national and at the institutional levels in order to achieve successful application of ICT in TVET education. Some of these key factors are leadership qualities, resource planning and costing, collaboration and networking, professional development, instructional design, selection of media and methods, learner support, and final research and evaluation. Now, leadership at the national and institutional level must consider three important things. What is the quality of the institutional leadership? How strong and ongoing support and motivation? And how effective an overall policy-making system? Now, there are some important requirements. Kosik et al. 2.9 observe that the integration of ICT in TVET system requires strategic readiness, pedagogical readiness, organizational readiness, and technical readiness. And the planning at the national and institutional level must undergo 4 major steps, which involves 1, you must establish the physical infrastructure for broadband access. You need to provide the necessary training, guidance, and support in online learning for managers, teachers, and learners. You need to undertake research and evaluation. And then finally, you need to develop systems for mainstreaming ICT-based teaching and learning and pedagogical change at the national and institutional level. Source, Brown et al. 2007. Now, there are, like I said earlier, these requirements that must be considered for successful planning of ICT integration are pedagogical readiness, which involves reappraising the teaching and learning methods, instructional design and technologies needed to meet the learner's needs, and providing induction and ongoing pedagogical and technological training for all staff and learners. We must also look at how ready is the organization. And this involves ensuring that there are learners, champions, and support and incentives to uphold they plan the innovations, and ensure quality in all operations. We must also ensure that all the technical requirements are ready by providing the technological and infrastructural requirements for ICT integration. This involves and moreover includes hardware and software production facilities, software licenses, and system maintenance. Now, there are some key case studies we listed here that centers on leadership. First, the Finnish National Board of Education made Omnia one of the national professional development providers for VET, vocational education and training. And innovation, technology, and education lie at the core of the city of Espoo, where the Omnia headquarters is located. All these factors helped Omnia to become a leader in and catalyst for applying ICT to 21st century learning solutions, and therefore challenges managers, teachers, and learners to step outside their comfort zone and embrace new ways of thinking and working. Sometimes it takes outside agencies partnering with those inside systems to catalyze leadership for innovation, which is true. Another case study is Commonwealth of Learning, the intergovernmental organization created by Commonwealth heads of government to promote and support the development of all forms of distant education, helped to establish the innovation in vocational education and skills training in Africa, called the Invest Africa Initiative. This initiative was then operationalized in partnership with the Commonwealth Association of Polytechnics in Africa, CAPA, and 13 member institutions of CAPA in 7 African countries. Another case study is the work of Germans B, where ICTs are one of the strongest drivers of their innovation, where organization plays a proactive and leadership role in advancing ICTs in VET, where national research and development projects, competitive funding measures for innovative use of media in the industrial sector is paramount, where establishment of an online portal called forus.d for teachers and accompanying trainers to freely access training and information service and opportunities. There are so many other case studies like New South Wales, Australia, and then the European Center for Development of Vocational Training. Now, let us look at the funding sources. Like we said earlier in our content flow chart, the major thing that tied the planning at the national and institutional level together is the sources of funding. Funding is central to these 2 different planning processes. And the main funding source we are looking at is government agencies. Government agencies are expected to fund TVET programs. And then we need to also look at other funding sources like students' fees, grants, aid agencies, donors, charitable organizations, public-private partnership, and revenue earned from entrepreneurial activities. So if you look at the arrow, all is gearing towards funding the ICT TVET integration. So funding is very important. For us to plan at the institutional level, a mix of centralized and decentralized, a mix of centralization and decentralization for using ICT for TVET transformation is important. Co-collating people with similar skill set can foster innovation. And autonomous development of ICT-based teaching and learning and online programs are also very, very important. So here we need to work out what teaching and learning method best suits them and their students. So we're saying at the planning and institutional level, we need to also understand, we need to find out what is actually workable, what suits these people, because we're coming from different backgrounds. And by doing that, we need to locate people with similar skill set, and then find out what can actually foster innovation in their space, and then autonomously develop ICT-based teaching and learning and online program based on what these people want and what they are looking out for. Now, there is a total system approach developed by University of Technology in Jamaica for ICT-based teaching and learning method. This system approach goes from establishing central specialized units to clarifying the expectations, then identify the sources of expertise and resources. We provide templates for the design of the learning activities, assessment of the modules and units, and then finally manage the budgets and workflow. How do we look at professional development? Professional development approach to ICT integration succeeded in developing a cadre of TVET instructors, course writers, and others who are capable of applying their new pedagogical and course management skills to online and blended learning. Now, we need to look at how consistent is the program, the quality and learner-centeredness in course design, development and delivery, and how mandatory, how compulsory, how important is the program. Now, in instructional design, we need to consider some certain things. We need to look at how cheap and easy to produce these items are, as shown in a Cambodian TVET Academic Pilot Program. Things like test presentations, webcasting or podcasting, short video demonstrations, behaviors and technical processes. These are the ODL and e-learning instructional design systems. So it is very important for us to consider how cheap and easy the production of these instructional systems are. And then the quality of distance education online course material depends upon due care given to some of these contents. Now, the content presentation strategies, the activation strategies, social support strategies, and then feedback and correction strategies. Now, a very important case study that is presented is a case of New Zealand Open Polytechnic, where a case is presented about the challenge faced by a traditional campus-based tertiary institution as it transforms itself into a distance and online provider and considers whether it should adopt the lecture-based or resource-based model of instructional design. So two models that use technology in every different way was actually considered, which is lecture-based or resource-based model. Now, Mary 2002 concluded that all theories and models of instructional design are essentially 5 fundamental principles, which stated in their most concise form are as follows. Learners must be engaged, which means learning is promoted when learners are engaged in solving real-world problems. Learning is promoted when existing knowledge is activated as a foundation for new knowledge. Learning is promoted when new knowledge is demonstrated to the learner. Learning is promoted when new knowledge is applied by the learner. Learning is promoted when new knowledge is integrated into the learner's world. So these are the 5 fundamental principles of instructional design. Now, we said earlier that the instructional design process we are adopting, that for us to carry out the instructional design process, we adopt the ADDIE framework. And then the ADDIE framework begins with the instructional design and training developers must adopt the analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation framework. Each stage in the instructional design process is subject to review and has an outcome that feeds into the consequence stage. And then such use of formative evaluation identifies problems with the inputs, why they are still easy to correct, and so save time, money, and effort. And then at the implementation stage, summative evaluation is then applied to assess the outcome and impact of the product and services. So let us look at the ADDIE model. Just like we have expressed, each and every one of these phases, each of the phases has a formative evaluation, which makes the process very easy and for revision to actually take to be very easy to carry out. And at the end, summative and formative evaluation is carried out. Now, let us look at module selection. All these can be used to motivate learners, enhance understanding by illustrating up to the meaning 3-time situation and provide project and problem-based learning. Now, if you look at here, we have the text, audio, graphics, animations, and videos, which can actually be used to motivate learners to enhance their understanding of the illustrations. And then we need to also look at how learner support and collaborative learning can actually be infused into the instructional design process. Now, there are some module contents that opens up new opportunities for the sectors and are particularly popular with the younger generation. Something like the internet, the social media, open publishing, multimedia, and hypermedia methods. We also have the YouTube, which is an erroneous position or repository of educational and training channels and programs. Now, for us to select the video type or method, we must consider the students. How easy is this method or media? The cost implication, teaching functions, the integration ways or methods or measures, organizational issues, networking and novelty, and then speed and security of the media. There are some key principles we need to consider for us to effectively select the type of media we want. How the effective teaching and learning in all forms calls for fundamental adjustment of thoughts, applications, discipline, and concentration. And creating quality ICT-based courses and programs can be costly and time-consuming. So we need to consider effective teaching and learning in all forms. So it is also advisable to check whether appropriate courseware already exists, and then if so, whether it is possible to access and use or adapt it. Then we need to also check if TVET institutions and industries should collaborate in creating high-quality generic online courseware in the form of OER and MOOCs that everyone across the system can share, adopt, adapt, customize, update, use in whatever ways and contents they wish. Now, collaboration can also help catalyze new ideas, knowledge, skills, and practice. Now, this can be conducted on an international basis. This approach could also help to resolve the access, equity, cost, quality challenges, and provide the flow of ideas, research, and best practices needed to ensure quality in TVET in developing countries. Now, let us look at the learner support system. In distance and online learning, learners can be drawn to distance study by ease, flexibility, and convenience. But then, that they lack the aptitude, experience, and knowledge for self-directed study and need confidence and morale boosting tutorial support and counseling with personal problems. Inadequate support hinders studies and leads to higher failures and dropout rate than in face-to-face study. Now, the Commonwealth of Learning and ACI Development outline tutor needs for distance education. And these are experts explaining the course content and clarifying learners' understandings, facilitators guiding the learner's studies without seeking to teach or explain directly, reflective practitioners exploring with learners and without presuming to possess superior knowledge, assessors examining or testing the learners on what providing feedback on their performance. Now, learner support can be provided through face-to-face orientation, study group sessions, and practical exercises in local learning centers and workplaces, and provided asynchronously or synchronously by means of email, blogs, or Skype. It can also be embedded within the instructional design in a way that help the learner think for themselves, apply and test their learning, and monitor their own progress. Different students' needs, different course requirements, and different circumstances call for different solutions. And while the use of computer-based learning packages and online resources may appear to offer economies of scale, it is important to require that the cost of learner support rise as the number of students increases. Therefore, peer support with learner sharing and offering knowledge, skills, experience, and practical help certainly has its place, but it cannot be a substitute for tutoring by expert staff. So it is always important to factor in cost, person hours, and resource requirement of the learner support. Now, another important requirement is the risk analysis and prevention costs. TVET providers must balance the benefit of using the various ICT-based approaches within the cost. And then risk analysis needs to take into account three sets of costs: cost, appraisal cost, internal and external failure costs. What are prevention costs? Prevention costs are those costs incurred in avoiding defects in systems, programs, and services at the very onset. For example, the cost of the policy making, planning, consulting with stakeholders, and establishing the correct organizational and management procedures for the curriculum and pedagogical development, instructional design, technical services, course delivery, and learner support. Now, appraisal costs are those costs that are incurred in evaluating the system, product, and services as they are being developed to ensure that they will meet the required standard and expectations when they are launched into the public domain. Now, the internal failure costs are those costs that are incurred before the final creation or delivery of systems, products, and services. It occurs at the implementation stage. Another important consideration is professional development. A workshop on TVET educators held at the second UPI International Conference on Technical and Vocational Education and Training in Indonesia in 2012 focused on the appropriate professional profile of TVET teachers and trainers. This resulted in a bang-on manifesto on TVET educators. This manifesto observed that the best predictor of successful learning is the quality of the teacher. It is essential to ensure the quality of TVET teachers' pedagogy and knowledge of the vocational and technical fields for which they are preparing their students. However, we need to look at the areas of competencies. A European-wide study by CEDEFO conducted in conjunction with Training of Trainers Network into the competencies required in TVET professional reviewed serious shortcomings in the training of TVET teachers. The inventory includes 1. Capabilities in adult learning, the use of ICTs and digital networks, collaborations and networks, ICT, curriculum development, and quality assurance. We need to also look at the areas of competencies. By using text, teachers anywhere can tap into entire teacher training course or short chunks of the just-in-time information they need to solve problems, perform specific tasks, or update their knowledge and skills in ways that fit in with their busy schedule. So some of these the ways through which they can actually tap into or get needed information to solve their problem can be through web or video streaming, through a safe CD-ROM or e-phone. Also, there are already many teacher training courses and resources on the web that are available for free or for a minimal fee, including books from such providers as Coursera, EDS, and Audacity. Much time, money, and effort can be saved by first checking whether they are online or digital resources that can be readily adopted or adapted to meet the specific teacher training needs. Collaboration between institutions and industry can make the development of these resources more economical. Now, how do we reposit training materials? At the National and Institutional Repository of Training Materials and Case Studies of best practice can be created, and the National and International champion featured to motivate, mentor, and enable teachers to develop their e-learning capabilities. So there are some measures we can adopt to reposit our training materials. One is by using social media. Teachers can also learn from each other online and form learning communities, some of which can even be global. Links to industry and professional websites featuring case studies of e-learning and e-training can be established. Information about ICTs and their uses can be disseminated nationally, internationally through online posts, conferences, newsletters, and media releases. Such networks are only effective if they are comprehensive and kept up to date by the policymakers, managers, teachers, and students whose experiences and opinions are so crucial to the TVET development. Incentives. If the teachers and trainers are going to commit themselves to TVET transformation and the integration of ICT-based method in their courses, there need to be incentives. Johnson 1986 suggests that there are 3 theories of motivation and productivity. The first is expectancy theory. People are more likely to make an effort in their work if there is an anticipated reward that they value. Equity theory. People are dissatisfied if they are not justly compensated for their effort and accomplishment. And finally, job enrichment theory. People are more productive when their work is varied and challenging. Finally, research and evaluation. Unlike their colleagues in higher education, few TVET staff will consider research to be part of their duties. One of the main things standing in the way of TVET realizing its potential is weak tradition of and poor investment in research-based knowledge and the weak documentation of promising operational knowledge. Weak culture of research and analytical knowledge creation and lack of regular and current data limits and current data limits the TVET sector's capacity for foresight and for futuristic orientation. There is a need for research into policy making and management, labor market monitoring and forecasting, external and internal effectiveness, equity, cost efficiency, new models for TVET systems and qualification frameworks, alternative models of financing, and the uses and impacts of ICT. Now, for us to carry out effective research and evaluation, we need to consider funding as well. Now, funding and support will also be needed for pilot projects, writing up case studies, measuring outcomes and impact to inform policy, and then planning and practices. And to be most effective, dissemination strategies such as print, online materials with illustrations, graph and figures, the mass media and social media, oral presentation and meetings must be designed and funded right at the start of projects and incorporated into all stages of research studies, rather than being mere thought after. In creating dissemination plan, researchers should consider the following: who is best placed to do the job? The practitioner research and evaluation skill training, called PREST, online material, looked at online material published by Commonwealth of Learning and International Research Foundation for open learning. And they provided a great deal of useful advice on how to conduct all aspects of research and dissemination. Now, they stated that materials are for use in open, distance, and online education by practitioners in the field with international examples. Conclusively, in conclusion, the Qingdao Declaration, that's to achieve the goal of inclusive and equitable quality education and lifelong learning by 2030. ICTs must be harnessed to strengthen education system, knowledge dissemination, information access, quality and effective learning. This unit therefore highlighted important planning factors, which were borrowed from the case studies that need to be attended to at both the national and the institutional level in order to achieve successful application of ICTs in TVET education. The biggest mistake that policymakers, managers, and educators and trainers can make in response to using ICTs for transformation in TVET is to focus too much on the technology and not enough on the needs, expectations, and the circumstances of the learners and other stakeholders and the quality of the instructional design and learner support. Now, let us look at the transformative reflection. We have completed this segment of instruction. Therefore, engage in the following reflection. Consider your learning experience while completing this segment of instruction. Make a critical reflection regarding the extent to which this instruction has helped you identify and explore alternative set of assumptions, or reinforce your initial assumption regarding ICT policies in TVET. If this instruction has helped you consider alternative set of assumptions, test the validity of these assumptions by participating in a reflective dialogue with a critical friend or by engaging in self-reflection. Now, let us look at these practice questions. Remember, at the beginning of this unit, we looked at the questions, and now we're going to actually look at these questions again and try as much as possible to carry them out in the process of doing them. Using your transformative reflection experience, develop a plan to integrate ICTs at the national and institutional level. If your organization has already developed a plan for integrating ICTs in TVET, review and revise these indicators as may be necessary. Ask a group of key stakeholders in TVET to revise these policies you have created. Thank you for listening. However, complete the assessment under this unit and try as much as possible consult the forum wherever there is need, and see you in the next unit, which is Unit 5.1, ICT Integration Strategic Plan for TVET. Thank you.